Welcome to another episode of the Sport Management Association Alumni Interview Series. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Cassidy. Today we are speaking with Jarrod Barnes, currently the manager of former player marketing and services for the Los Angeles Rams. Thank you so much for being with us today. Would you mind by starting and giving us a description of your career journey and how you got where you are today, Jarrod?
Yeah, well, first, Rachel and Cassidy, thanks so much for having me. Was super excited just to jump on. I have a bit of an interesting career journey, honestly. I was a former student athlete, so I was a student athlete at the University of Louisville. Played football there for 3 years, ended up graduating early, and was a grad transfer to Ohio State. And when I was a transfer came in literally right after Ohio State won the national championship. So it was like some crazy talented guys on the team, an incredible experience. But also had an awesome opportunity to join the sport management program at Ohio State, working with Dr. Brian Turner and Donna Pastore. And man, it was an awesome experience, great opportunity to get exposure into the sports industry. Coming in before my undergrad was in exercise science. I wanted to be a strength coach growing up. I felt like that was a fun thing that I love to do, but wanted to really expand my horizon of what a career in sports could look like, and had a feeling it was going to be something beyond just being a coach or strength coach. It's something I'm still passionate about to this day, but also wanted to explore other opportunities. After I finished my graduate degree at Ohio State, ended up actually getting into coaching. So the first real role I had, I worked for Ohio State football, was a intern defensive backs coach under Coach Kerry Combs at the time. And for me, it was a great landing spot that allowed me to be involved in a lot of different things. I was doing regular coaching responsibilities, but also helping with Ryan Stamper at the time. He was the director of player development, and being able to have almost a broad look at just football operations as a whole. It was somewhat of a rotational internship within the program. And from there, ended up getting an opportunity to go down to Clemson University. And really, that was my first time working in athletics administration. So worked as the assistant director of student athlete development there for about a year. And for me, it was incredibly humbling, right? To come and be at a place like Ohio State, have my experience as a student athlete, get to work for my alma mater and institution, and then go to a completely different institution where nobody knew who I was. And we had just lost to Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl, so a lot of people are giving me a hard time. And so it was humbling, right, to learn a whole new, in a sense, language where college athletics, college sports is pretty much universal across the board, but each institution has its own unique way of doing things. So for me, that was a great way to learn a new way to do something that I thought I knew how to do before. But one thing that I was really involved in at Ohio State was actually the Social Entrepreneurship Club. I was one of the founding members of that club and had really gotten involved in the entrepreneurial space during my time at Ohio State, and had built some great relationships there. And so after that first year at Clemson, I kind of looked at myself in the mirror and I said, like, hey, if you're actually going to do this thing and get involved in entrepreneurship and launch a company, it's kind of now or never. So I took that leap, ended up stepping away from my role at Clemson, and then launched a company called Prime U, where in a sense we were a leadership development training service for collegiate and professional athletes, and had an incredible ride over the course of 3 years to take an idea from a sheet of paper and build it into a fully functioning business. We ended up growing and scaling to a staff of 7, working with about 35 clients over a couple different leagues. And ironically, one of the clients we worked with was the LA Rams. And at the end of our contract, they approached me about this role I'm currently in and said, hey, Jarrod, we have an opportunity coming open with our former players. It's something that's really a whole white space for us. Would you be interested? I said, yeah, I definitely want to consider that and see it as an opportunity, and pretty much interviewed on the spot for it. And lo and behold, I ended up gaining the opportunity. And so now what I do for the Rams, I'm the manager of former player marketing and services. I work very, very closely with our sponsorship, marketing, and media teams to create experiences for our season ticket members, fans, and suite owners, engaging with our former players and really storytelling our history in a relevant way. With that, I also work to cultivate a community of former players. And once you retire, or even if you're cut or traded, how can you be welcomed into this brotherhood? So it's a really dynamic role, both on the marketing, operations, and media side, but also really on that athlete development and player engagement side as well, working with a broad range of former players, all the way from guys who were on our practice squad for maybe a year, all the way up to our Hall of Famers. So in that, there's a lot of personalities, a lot of relationships, dynamics, but I think that's what makes it exciting, what makes it interesting, and certainly a great opportunity. So I know that was long-winded, but hey, at 1,000-foot view, that's kind of been my journey.
Sweet. So after graduating University of Louisville for undergrad, what was the main reason you chose Ohio State for grad school?
You know, that's a great question. Honestly, I knew I wanted to go to an institution that was really going to set me up for success over the long term. I'm a native of Columbus, Ohio, born and raised, grew up right outside of German Village, right across from COSI, so very familiar with the city, and had a pretty good understanding of what Ohio State offered, and specifically the access, right, to opportunity, access to individuals, right, that I may not have had access to through other institutions. So it was really a strategic decision. You know, as an athlete at the University of Louisville, I was a starting safety there, and then when I went to Ohio State, was a backup and special teams role player. You know, so it's pretty humbling transition for me. But I knew in the long run this was only going to benefit me to go to a tier 1 research institution.
That's awesome. Rachel loves German Village too, by the way.
It's a great spot. It's a great spot.
Nice to be.
What is your favorite memory from your time in the Sport Management Association at Ohio State?
Man, a lot of great memories. You know, I had an incredible experience particularly because of my classmates. There were some just phenomenal people in our cohort. We had like a couple of the football GAs in our cohort at the time, who I'm still very close with. Matt Merritt, who was a fellow student of mine at the time, but now he's one of the running back coach at James Madison University. He and I have just built a great relationship, but honestly, it came a lot through the peer relationships. You know, for me, I was as a grad transfer, I was pretty young coming in. I was 21 coming into the program, so was really young, and there was certainly a wide range of individuals in the cohort. So just to learn from their experiences was humbling, right? To kind of be a fly on the wall in certain conversations, and then to lead other conversations. But also, man, I'll tell you what, I so appreciate Dr. Turner, and he always made us stay up to date on what was happening within the sport industry. I think I took that for granted as a student, because I'm like, why am I doing all these research reports and reading Sports Business Journal? And it's funny because I get now every day as a professional, I get their updates emailed to my phone every day, right? And I'm like checking it, like, oh, okay, like staying in tune with the industry. But at the time I just didn't know what I didn't know. So really, I can't speak enough of how it prepared me to develop the mindset and systems to be a professional in the industry.
Sweet. What you said about the people, like that's one of the best things about the program, or the
Absolutely.
friendship.
Yeah.
So what skills do you believe are the most important for young professionals entering the sport industry?
That's a great question. It's a great question. I think honestly, and I'll answer that twofold, right? Like there's kind of the sport industry in general, and then there's the sport industry right now due to COVID and everything going on. And I think regardless, the industry is rapidly evolving. The industry is somewhat fluid, and it also caters to innovation and evolution pretty quickly. So I bring that up because written and oral communication, especially in a virtual world, are absolutely critical, because things move really, really quickly. To be able to articulate your thoughts, be able to speak to a specific project, speak to outcomes, speak to whatever it may be, and communicate that clearly to a number of stakeholders, whether that's internally within your organization or externally and others you may be working with, absolutely critical. And it's something that really didn't become real to me until I had my first full-time role in the industry and at Clemson. And just seeing how quickly things worked and how important it was to be able to communicate effectively and clearly with stakeholders. I think it's one of those foundational skills that, it may be overlooked in some arenas, but I think within sports, because things move so fast, it's absolutely critical. Because I'll tell you what, if you're maybe lacking in that space, it can be hard just to keep up with everything going on.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So kind of in tandem with that, what would your advice be to incoming graduate students to our program?
It's a great question. Honestly, I think graduate school is a phenomenal opportunity to build a portfolio and build a portfolio of experiences, a portfolio of perspective, a portfolio of relationships, right? I think you hear the term, oh, send me your resume. Your resume is static, right? It's a sheet of paper with some bullet points. A portfolio is more dynamic, right? It speaks to not only who you are, but where you're trying to go and things you have already done. It's tangible. I can grasp that. I can see what you're capable of. So coming into the program, I think it's almost having a mindset of, hey, I'm taking this opportunity to really build my portfolio, right? I think the Blacko, the great jacket you have on right now, Cassidy, that's, oh, and Rachel, okay. My bad. That's one part of it, right? But really the value comes from the relationships. It comes from the projects you work on. It comes from the skills and competencies that you build through the degree program. So I think it really just starts with that mindset and understanding the value and opportunity that you've been presented.
Yeah, totally. So how does working for the Los Angeles Rams compare to other areas of the sport industry that you've previously worked in?
It's a great question. And, I'll tell you what, working for an NFL franchise, there is nothing quite like it. It is an incredibly humbling opportunity. The NFL recently released a league-wide survey that showcased the power of the NFL. And it showed how the NFL is truly a global brand and has a significant amount of influence all over the world. And working for a franchise like the Rams that is incredibly dynamic, really leading in the NFL as it relates to stadium experiences. We're about to open up a brand new stadium. We just launched our new logos and everything and revealed some new jerseys. And so it's been an incredible learning experience to see an organization that innovates and operates at an extremely high level, but also really cares about its people. And I think for me, why it's different is the difference between collegiate athletics and pro sports. Obviously, revenue is different, but honestly, it's the mindset of individuals who are in the space. A majority of my colleagues don't really have backgrounds in football. They may be coming from different industries. They may be coming from, I think about our vice president of analytics is coming from a world where he used to work in casinos and hotels. And we have others in the space who came from more corporate marketing. And then the individual who I report to came from Visa. So it's just so dynamic, right? And you're seeing all these different meshes of experiences together to ultimately uplift a product or organization in the LA Rams. So for me, it's just been a great learning experience, but also a unique way to add value. I've taken a lot of what I've learned through my experience at Ohio State, my experience at Clemson, and my experience as an entrepreneur, kind of being boots on the ground. And after you create something from nothing and you have no budget and you try to create something, it's been unique, right? It's certainly been a great learning opportunity.
Side note, how excited are you for the new stadium?
It's gonna be pretty cool. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures, but it's gonna be off the chain. It really is exciting because it's an opportunity for us to really set the new standard and set a bar of what a fan experience should look like. And so it's almost creating a new textbook of what that should be. But also it's somewhat intimidating because somebody's got to do that work. So it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are definitely, I feel like, leading the pack in the new kind of wave of fan experience, and it's super exciting. We're excited to see it, watch it. In tandem with that, what has been the biggest highlight of your career thus far?
Wow, that's a great question. Biggest highlight of my career, to be honest, I don't know if I could point to one thing. I think it's been the relationships that have been built along the way, whether it be through the Rams, through my experience as an entrepreneur, my time at Clemson, or even Ohio State, just the relationships formed and the opportunities that have been presented have been far beyond what I ever thought was possible, right? I shared how, born and raised in Columbus, honestly, I'm just a kid from Columbus, Ohio. Found myself in the middle of Los Angeles. It's like crazy. Like, you can't even write this up, And so for me, I just see it as an incredible blessing and just have continually followed that pursuit of opportunity, but also found ways to give back. And I guess if I could answer your question, to point to one experience, I think for me, it was honestly, as an entrepreneur, the opportunity to form a team and I think bring individuals together from all these different backgrounds and meet people I never thought I would meet. It's truly special. Something I'm incredibly passionate about. I think between sports and entrepreneurship are really the two things that I've seen transcend any type of race, bias, class, gender, you name it. And so to have an opportunity to be involved with both of those at a very deep level has been just special to
Well, we all love LA, right?
me.
So how has COVID-19 affected your work and the Rams as a whole? And what do you think the biggest change is coming in your respective area with all of this going on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say it's dramatically disrupted the industry, dramatically forced us to evolve and pivot our strategy pretty significantly, which is great because we're agile enough to do so. But it's also, created a significant kind of learning curve in, okay, how are we going to adapt to this, right? When everything really hit in March and you saw the NBA, MLS, and all these leagues start to shut down, that's when we were like, okay, this is real, right? We had the opportunity, it was our off season. So we had a buffer in time. But I think for us, number one in order of priority has been player safety and making sure our players and essential staff are healthy and able to continue on with their training. And it's just been unique. Our entire offseason has been virtual. So all of our team meetings, everything that we normally do in person has been virtual. And so similar to you guys as students, it's been a completely different experience, to try and rally people and get people excited through a computer screen. Totally different than what it would be before. So that's been really just priority one with that. And even our rookies, I know we actually drafted Jordan Fuller, Ohio State alum. So really excited to get him out here. But even with our rookies, haven't been able to get them into our facility just yet. But really number two, from an overall organization strategy, player safety is number one, but really overall has been to rethink our fan experience. Right. We obviously had a virtual NFL draft this year, and so had to significantly pivot from what we had planned in a 10,000 person draft party in the Inland Empire of LA to a virtual show pretty quickly, which was great and phenomenal for us. But it's been a lot of what's called design thinking, right? And trying to understand our fans, where they're at, what they're looking for, and how we can meet them in that moment, and yet still remain true to who we are and create a dynamic experience that is going to allow people to truly experience the Rams brand. Earlier in March, we released our brand ID. So it's our new logo suite, our new colors. Everything was incredibly different than anything we had done before. And trying to rethink that and get all of our cross-functional teams aligned it's pretty challenging. So that's why I mentioned earlier, just that communication is critical. And then doing a similar process with our jersey unveil as well, and trying to craft all those things virtually, definitely been a big challenge. But I think at the end of the day, has been trying to meet fans where they're at, understand what's going on in the world, especially given in the past few weeks in light of just the racial injustices taking place. And, trying to be with the people, right, and be one of the culture. And, what's unique about the NFL is it really does depend on the market that you're in Los Angeles being one of the most diverse markets in the whole country, right? The city is 44% Hispanic and Latino. And so just understanding that going in and understand who you're talking to, what they're looking for, it's been humbling. We've had to really revisit the wheel and say, like, hey, almost question ourselves in a healthy way and say, like, are we doing the best we can to reach our fan base? And are we being intentional about what we're doing? And so a lot of the pivots we've had have really started with those questions and then really carrying out the execution processes down the road through there. So it has certainly been a big organizational pivot, but hey, trying to take it one day at a time and at least build off of what we know.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is all about those relationships. And kind of in addition to speaking of relationships, who is your biggest role model personally and professionally?
Man, that's a great question. I certainly have a lot of role models, but there's one individual who I really want to speak to, who's been a friend and colleague to me for about 2.5 years. His name's Jacques McClendon. He is our director of player engagement here with the Rams. He is a former student athlete at the University of Tennessee, played in the NFL for about 7 years, and then has been with the Rams for about 4 years. He was really the one who took a chance on me when I shot him a cold DM on LinkedIn and gave me 30 minutes of his time to even hear me out, understand my story, and has been just a great friend and colleague to me. And, what I value about him the most is really two things. Number one, he genuinely listens to understand rather than listening to respond. And then number two, he has held me accountable to things that I say I want to do. And for me, I couldn't ask for anything more from a friend, from a mentor, from a colleague. I really believe accountability is one of the greatest forms of love, and he will wholeheartedly hold me accountable to everything. And I love it because I need it. Because the older I've gotten, the more I've realized, just how important that is. I think as a former athlete myself, right? Like I loved being in that team environment, and you kind of trusted your coaches or captains to be those individuals who held you accountable to the things. But, for me personally, just throughout my career, Jacques has really been that to me. And, we've really uplifted each other. It's been a mutual relationship. So definitely want to take a time to give him a shout out.
Awesome. So now we're going to switch over to some fun or Ohio State related questions. What's your all-time favorite sports memory?
All-time favorite sports memory, 2016, Ohio State versus Team Up North, double overtime. That was my senior day, absolute insanity. I would never forget that game, that moment. Was played with some incredible players, incredible teammates and coaches on that staff. Great moment.
Yeah, that was the best. So I'm from Arizona. My dad's born and raised in Ohio, so I was born and raised a Buckeye fan. We skipped family Thanksgiving, sorry fam, to go to that game. We had a red eye to catch after, so we're like waiting in the stand, waiting, and then we finally booked it. We jogged like a mile and a half back to the car, just off adrenaline. Absolute best.
Unbelievable.
Can't beat that.
Best game.
People still to this day are like, JT Barrett didn't get the first down. And I'm like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. Arguably, it will be one of those games. Like, it'll just go down. 20 years from now, they'll look back. And I'm like, shoot, that was crazy. Absolutely.
What is your favorite restaurant or thing to do in Columbus?
Favorite restaurant, thing to do in Columbus. I mentioned COSI earlier just because I love the Side of the Mile. That they have done a phenomenal job with the Side of the Mile. I would actually go walk that before every game. So on Fridays before we would go to the team hotel, I would go walk that. That was like my one spot. I grew up around that area as a kid. And then restaurant, man, Sloopy's on campus, it's solid. It gets the job done. I'm a big first watch guy though. I feel like that's one step up, even though it's a chain, it's a step up, and it's like, okay, I'm official now. I go to first watch, so.
My old apartment was right across the street from a first watch. So all the time, Sunday morning is always there.
Avocado toast?
Avocado toast.
But it's $24 for avocado toast though. I'm going to go broke for.
So how would you describe Ohio State in 3 words?
Tradition. I might just hit them with the athletic tagline. Tradition, excellence for sure, but also tradition, excellence, and movement. I say movement because, especially being from Columbus, growing up in the early '90s in the city, seeing what it was and what it is now, and how campus and Ohio State really as a whole has really transformed parts of the city, and even High Street in the Short North. What the institution has done for the city is phenomenal, and really spurred on movement in a way that I don't know if it would have happened without Ohio State. And I know the deal they signed with Apple and really becoming a flagship institution. It's really exciting to see. It makes me proud as an alum, to have that level of excellence, to have that level of tradition, but also innovation, growth, and continuous learning. It's certainly something to be proud of.
Yeah, the constant construction is always working.
But hey, 5 years from now, you'll come back, and it's going to be totally different.
Yeah, whenever I would take people on tours of athletic facilities, and they were like, every time I drive in, something popping up, either high-rise apartments or new dorms. So it's always changing, which I love it.
Crazy.
So Jarrod, thank you so much for taking the time today. It was great to hear from you and your experiences. To everyone watching, thanks for tuning in to the Sport Management YouTube channel. We'll see you next time. Bye.